Hi everyone. Good evening. Very nice to meet you in the different platform as a panel discussion. So this recording, right, in the Zoom, it's going to be published in the YouTube channel and also in another private channels too, right? So for the betterment of the children, those who are taking offering literature, right, as their basket subjects and living in the suburbs and having got any chances of following the classes and all, right? For their benefits only, it is being published, right? So in this panel, it's my pleasure to welcome and introduce my children here, right, one by one. The first of all, actually, so they themselves say about their interest in literature and where they come from and so on, right? So in that in the part of introduction, first of all, I call Fedrina, right, from the Eastern Province, and she belongs to a leading school, I guess, St. Mary's College, Trincomalee. And Fedrina, so can you please say something about you, ma'am?
Yeah, sir. First of all, I'd like to thank myself for giving me a great opportunity to speak about something like this. And personally, literature is my favorite subject, and I'm very glad that I'm able to help other students using this panel discussion.
Okay, fine. Kaif, second, I just call one of us, only one boy, right, in the panel, right? He's also belongs to a leading, highly recognized school in the capital, from DS Senanaika. Kaif, can you say? Can
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. Hi, friends. Hi, everyone. I am Mohammed Kaif from DS Senanaika College, studying at grade 11. I'm from Colombo. I am glad to interact with you all in this platform, and I'm expecting to give my best in this program. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Kaif. Hi, the girl Jaganya, right? She is a student of another recognized leading school, which shows its colors in all the national exams, right? In the O level and A level, and producing lots of leaders, the future leaders to the world, to the country. That is Hindu Ladies College from Colombo 6. Jaganya, can you say something about you?
Yeah, so thank you, sir. I'm from Ramanathan Ladies College, and I love literature as it was so interesting. And of course, I want to thank sir for giving this opportunity right here. And thank you for giving me this right opportunity to help my students, of course, my colleagues, to get a best results in literature, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jaganya. Extending my apology, because first of all, I thought that you are coming from Hindu Ladies College, Colombo 6. Apology to the viewers also. She is from the leading school, Ramanathan Hindu Ladies College from Colombo 4. Thank you. Right. Let's call Lashvikah, right? Lashvikah, she is the school that I was intended at the beginning, right? She belongs to the Colombo Hindu Ladies College, Colombo 6. Lashvikah, please say something about you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very glad that to be in this panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lashvikah. Then Reefa, she is also coming from another the highly recognized the industrial city of Kandy, right? She is coming from the Kandy district, and she belongs to a school, Azza College, right? The Kandy, that's an international school. And Reefa, so can you say a few words about you?
Yes, I'm come from Andy, and I'm glad to be part of this panel discussion, and I'm thanking you for giving this opportunity to show our talents. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Reefa. Right, finally, Winsha, right? She doesn't need any more introduction for the YouTubers, as since she is introduced herself. She is known to the YouTube world, as she has presented lots of videos, published lots of videos connected with all the subjects and also the passion in life, right? the Winsha Worthington. She belongs to Althea International School. Winsha, a few words, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I have to extend my heartfelt gratitude to sir for giving us this golden opportunity to voice out our expressions and opinions on this valuable subject that we students have been gifted with. And I firmly believe that this panel discussion becomes beneficial to each and every one of you, as well as our fellow people who are gathered here, so that we are able to expand ideas and opinions on English literature. So thank you very much, and looking forward to a very fruitful discussion.
Oh, so it would be very nice introductions given. Thank you, Winsha and the other children. Okay, so straight away, let's start our discussion on literature, right? The texts that are prescribed in your anthology. And it's not possible, right, covering up everything, all the text and genres. But whatever possible, that say we can maximum make use of the time, right? Okay, so let's begin with the panel discussion, right? By asking a question, right? So based on poetry, right? Since actually most of the children, so they are facing issues and problems in analyzing or in approaching the poetry, how to answer the questions and how to understand the questions, right? And how even what can be the things that have to be expected by the examiners and all. There are lots of questions in the minds of children. So therefore, I would think it would be a better start if we start with poetry, right? So I take. So I call Fedrina, right? Fedrina, say something, you know, about the poems, right? All the 20 poems are categorized under 5 categories, right? Even apart from the other categories, I feel the categories of conflict, the conflict poems are needed much more understanding, right? So those are the poems that give a little bit confusions in the minds of the people. So therefore, how do you see, it's my question is, how do you see the conflict poems in our anthology really portray the complicated human emotions, which create lots of confusions?
Yes, sir. Before I start, I think it's very important that we all know what a conflict actually is. A conflict, in simple words, can be described as a serious incompatibilities between two or more opinions, people, or interests. And facing conflicts in our lives is inevitable because conflicts arise from the very emotions that we all fail to control in certain situations in our life, because we all have certain views about certain things. And this in turn creates many complicated emotions in all of us. And this is clearly shown in Wisława Szymborska's poem, The Terrorist is Watching. And normally humans tend to be afraid of death in general, maybe it be their own deaths or the death of their loved ones. But the terrorist mentioned here craves the violence that comes with death and is eager for the bomb he planted to explode, counting down to the very last second until it takes all those innocent lives that had nothing to do with him in the first place. And what disturbs the reader the most when they read the poem is that this particular terrorist doesn't realize that what he's doing is morally wrong. He thinks that he's doing this for a greater good, and this is a mindset that many of today's terrorists have. And while this poem's protagonist is emotionless about the lives he created and the massacre, the protagonist of the next poem, the one from The Farewell to Barn and Stack and Tree, written by A.E. Housman, feels a different range of haunting emotions that strike the readers in their chest. We find him bidding farewell to the farm he lives in because of a crime he committed. He's afraid for his own life because he killed his own brother in a fit of rage, and is guilty of his actions because he's unable to take back what he did, and he cannot face his mother again, causing him to run away from home. And while these aforementioned poems discuss about complicated human emotions such as self-righteousness, guilt, and bloodlust, the next poem's premise, the one called The Breakfast, written by Jacques Brevet and translated into English by Reggie Srivartana, has a much simpler premise and is much more relatable to us as readers, because this talks about the importance of communication in a human relationship. And the narrator here, whom we can assume as a partner of the man being observed, yearns for the love and attention of the man, but only receives a cold shoulder instead. And the poet here makes it very clear that the relationship If they don't let go of their respective egos, their relationship is bound to fail at some point and cannot be salvaged again. And this portrays a yearning that we as humans feel for love and attention, and how our egos prevent us from getting what we want. And I believe that this is how the three poems under the theme of conflict really expertly shows the complicated human emotions and many confusion that it creates. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Fedrina. So beautifully done, so nothing can be said, nothing can be explained than this within the shorter period of time. So taking all the poems that are included in the theme of conflict and briefly analysis given, so the explanation and also the criticism, just like it looks like a literary criticism of all the 4 poems. Nicely done, Fedrina. Very well done. Thank you. Right. So let's talk about, yes, it's after Fedrina. So let's talk something about, actually, so we just change the genre a little bit, right? From the poetry, right? Even so, we'll take, let's take drama. We just turn our vision to the drama, right? To say something, right? To say something. As far as the anthology is concerned, so you could have seen there are 2 dramas, right? Both the plays are given as the humorous plays. One is a farce, the other one is a play of humor, the humorous play, and also, right, it is presented with some the serious themes, right? The second one. So let me take the first, the farce, the bear, right? So I think it would be better to ask a question, right? Ask a question to Kaif, right? Actually, Kaif, let me ask you a question about the bear, right? The bear is the farce, right? That's we would have studied in grade 10, right? The grade 10 syllabus, it's included, even though it's considered as a farce, right? But here, as in this play, the money plays a significant role, right? And it gives is an important part, right? The important role in the development of the whole plot, right? Can it be justifiable? Money is given prominence here. How can you justify?
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, the bear is a one-act play, or so-called as a farce, as it has many humorous elements throughout the play, and it's written by a Russian author, Anton Chekhov. As the play written in the setting of pre-revolutionary Russian era, the money played a major role in the society of that period, and also it influenced the plot of this play also. This play majorly speaks about the effect of money on human behaviors and how money makes people as inconsistent. The theme money is subtle, but it triggers the complication of the drama and runs in the background of the plot up to the climax. The plot is fabricated around 3 main major characters named Popova, Smirnov, and Popova's servant Luka. The plot starts with the issue of money. The complication is that Popova's late husband, Nikolai Mihailovich, was in debt for 1,200 rubles to Smirnov, who has to pay that interest money to a mortgage on the very next day. So he needed his money very desperately. Popova was very much irritated by the arrival of Smirnov because he was acted in a rude or aggressive manner and asked for his cash immediately. Popova's peace was very much disturbed at that moment. Popova was willing to pay his money right after her steward returns, but Smirnov reiterates that he wants the money now and only. The argument between the protagonist Popova and the Smirnov arose, and at one point of time, they even decided to fight with pistols also. But after that, suddenly Smirnov fell in love with Popova, and at that point of time, no money was needed to Smirnov from Popova, and all his demands got vanished suddenly. When Smirnov proposed Popova, we can see that he revealed his wealth as he is a landowner and has an income of 10,000 rubles a year. This thing shows how much importance given to money by people at those time of period. At the climax, Popova also changed her mind and decided to accept the Smirnov's request. The play ended with the Popova giving in for Smirnov's request and Smirnov giving up his money to get the hands of Popova. The writer has clearly showed that how money and wealth can affect a person's life, and even a person's moral conduct can be also disturbed when money is on his way. Thank you, sir. That's it.
Okay, very nicely presented, Kaif. Yeah, the role of money. The role of money in the whole play, right, is portrayed by the reaction by the reaction of all the three characters there, right? Especially the two protagonists, right? The two protagonists. So that's very simply and very clearly and deeply. So you just explain how the money, the role of the money in the whole play, and how it helps to develop the whole plot to reach out the theme. Thank you, Kaif. Okay. In the third point, right? The third point again. So we, since the poetry, so we have lots of poems, 20 poems, and also the 5 categories it's presented in the anthology. So we have to give another chance, right, to Jaganya, right, to Jaganya. This time, another, as I said at the beginning, even the conflict poems are the little bit complicated as far as the thematic concern, right? The thematic concern and also understanding, right? Because of the writers also, even though they are scholars, and the way of writing, right? It needs more understanding. It's going deeper into the poems only to get the views or the viewpoints of the poets, and also their intention and what they wanted to convey right through their writing. It's really tough. That's what I at the beginning I told you. So that is especially the conflict poems mostly. But next to that conflict poems, the nature poems, right? Even though most of the poems are presented in at the beginning, right, at the beginning of the anthology, even like the William Blake and Alfred Lord Tennyson, they are the pioneers, and they are the way of or style of writing poetry is very much needed. More understanding, deeper understanding only. So therefore, I just have a question for Jaganya about the nature poems, right? The question: do you think that the nature poems generally reveals the majestic power of nature? What's your opinion?
Yes, sir, thank you. Nature is the basic of a life. Everything around us, like humans, animals, trees, everything is considered as nature. But as humans, we never understood the real power of nature. As according to that, the poems which are coming under the theme of nature, To the Night by John Keats, and The Bird Came Down the Walk by Emily Dickinson, The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and To the Evening Star by William Blake, are making us to understand the true majestic power of nature. For my opinion, that is of course true. As proof, we can consider To the Nile by John Keats, as it's brought out the real majestic power of the river Nile. For example, we can say it's the identity of pyramids and of course the water living creatures. Also, he specifically mentioned that it's nursing the Swartz nations. Of course, it's helping using its majestic power to the black people. Not only that, in Bird Came Down the Walk by Emily Dickinson, it shows the self-independence and also the dignity of every natural creature. Of course, that can be considered as the majesticity. Also in the poem As the Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson, the majesticity and of course the power of eagle is directly brought out. Not only that, To the Evening Star by William Blake, of course it brought out the majesticity of the planet Venus. The administrations and of course the majesticity of the planet Venus is compared to the fair-haired angel that can be showed as the natural power. So as I think so, these 4 poems are the best example that have brought out the natural power as majesticity. Thank you, sir.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, very well. So very well said, right, about the poem, the eagle, right? How the majestic power, right? The majestic power, and how the things, right? How the poems, the nature poems, right? The majestic power of the nature is presented, right? First of all, by providing the Tennyson's poem, right? The eagle, right? How so he portrays the bird eagle, right, as the part of, right, the power of nature, as the part of nature. Even another, To the Evening Star, that is also belongs to, right, the nature poems. It comes, right, how the nature planet Venus involves in providing the majestic power for giving the ultimate protection to the world. So that's something, right, very well analyzed, Jaganya, thank you. Okay, now so we move from poetry towards prose, right? The prose. Since we all know, right, there are 4 prose texts that are prescribed, right? Among them, 2 short stories and 1 memoir, and the other one is the speech, right? Other one is the speech, right? The other one is the speech. But among these, the prose text, right? The short stories and the speech, but it's a little bit emotional and a little bit touching when we study the mema, right? Study the mema wave, right? So that shows, how the people would react in crisis, and what was the tragedy? How was the tragedy that was bared up by a single woman, right? By a single woman, and she faced and how she faced the consequences thereafter. By the time, even it's a real tragedy, even though it's a natural disaster. It's because of the natural disaster, but it's a tragedy as far as a lonely woman is concerned, right? Actually, the intention of the woman, actually, she wants to convey to the world, right? Even nobody can take the woman, right? Women as vulnerable, right? So they can face the challenges. They are equal to men, and how they can, so they can bear up, they can shoulder, right? Whatever they can, so they can face and they can digest, right? Whatever happens in their personal life. She's an exemplary character, right? Exemplary character, but she shows that talent, the strength of a woman, right? By sharing her personal experience, right, when she had during the natural disaster of the tsunami, right? So therefore, my question is to you, Lashvikah, right? The reaction of the people, right? So by considering the wave, right, by referring to the wave, the mema, the reaction of people in crisis are spontaneous, not intentional. So how would you justify this?
Yes, sir. First of all, this is a story. It's all about a woman's emotions who lost her whole family in the disaster tsunami. So the story started with the scene where the sea goes back and the nervousness has become for everyone. So the scenes she saw watched in the hotel, and Sonali's mind was filled with lots of emotions and confusions and fears. So and she doesn't know what to do. As the result of that only, she ran carrying her two sons only by her, and also without shouting or knocking her parents. And when Beulah fell down from the jeep, Sonali said to the jeep driver that don't stop, because if they stop or slow down, they'll be late and they can't escape from the disaster. And Anton jumped to help Beulah, and if can't, he could stay with Beulah. And there's no time to think and analyze their decisions. So that's where for some moments nobody utters a word and keep quiet. I think because of all the spontaneous, because of this only, the reactions are spontaneous, not they are intentional.
Okay, lovely. Well done, Lashvi. Well done. Yeah, that's true. No, even at the beginning, when she realizes, something bad is going to happen. Actually, she doesn't know, right, what is going to happen exactly, right? But the reaction is spontaneous, right? First of all, actually, she prioritized her motherhood, and she started running, carrying both of her children in both hands, right? So that reaction is spontaneous. Actually, she was not planning what to do and how to do and when to do. Actually, she starts running because her intuition made her to run. So she started running. That is one spontaneous. And also, as Lashvikah mentioned, even in the Beulah, Anton and Beulah's incident, right, when the jeep driver, right, when the Olanta's parents, when the jeep driver started to take the vehicle, right, even first of all, even Anton, actually, he tried to get her back inside the jeep. When she realizes it's not possible, actually, he jumped. Even at that point, at that fraction of a second, it's taken, the decision was taken by Anton. That is spontaneous, right? So here, almost everything, even though Sonali, she worries a lot afterwards, right? For leaving her parents alone, right? Without informing them, without knocking on the door and all. Actually, she was feeling guilty, but actually she can't do anything. Actually, she didn't know how she has done it. She did it, right? Because the spontaneous reaction of a human being that was portrayed, right? So as a human being, she cannot be blamed, right? Because she reacted spontaneously without having any intention at all. Lovely, very lovely said, right? Lovely said, Reefa, lovely justified there. Okay, then again, we just see another prose text, right? Not the short stories, this time. So I have a question for Reefa, right? Reefa. It's based on the extract, right? The extract of the Colin Cowtree lecture, right? Done by Kumar Sangakkara. Even Kumar Sangakkara is also not needed any introduction to each and every people from Sri Lanka, right? Sri Lanka, because they know, right? Not only for cricketing skills, but for humanitarian thoughts and attitude, right? So he is known to the world, right? Not only, I don't want to restrict him within our country. Actually, he is an asset to the entire world now, right? Especially the sports arena. That's what he is given lots of prominent roles, right? Even he was the first person who was given the presidency of the MCC Cricket Club based in Lords, London, right? London. He is the only foreigner who was given the presidency, right, as a respect, right, to the game of cricket by giving him the presidency for 2 years. Right? The last years only it was expired, and recently he is given the fame of ICC, right? The fame of cricket, that award he was given, right? Then it was given recently to the other Mahila Jayawardene. The first it was given, right? So the great respect that was given, right, for a person from a country, or the smallest country like Sri Lanka, an opportunity to allow him to deliver an oration, right, in front of the Lords in Lords, right? In front of the Lords in Lords. That is the great opportunity, the great respect to the people. So we all the Sri Lankans should be proud of him, right? Should be proud of him. So I have a question on that particular speech, that extract that's taken from the speech, right? Given in, it's available in the YouTube, so you can say, if you wish, you can listen to it, right? A part of it, an extract, is being taken for the purpose of learning, especially for the children, based on a critical situation that he has faced when he was a captain of the national team, right, in Lahore, Pakistan, right? That is the extract of given in your anthology, right? So my question is, Reefa, do you think Kumar Sangakkara proves himself as he is a real patriot, than a mere cricketer? What's your opinion?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. Before rushing to the question, I would like to introduce you all what is patriotism. Patriotism is the quality of a patriot, devotion to and vigorous support to one's country. The Lahore attack is an extract that is taken from the Colin Cowtree lecture that was delivered by Kumar Sangakkara, and throughout this lecture, he proves himself as a better patriot. Let's look at some points which proves it. Foremost, instead of drawing the world's attention and sympathy towards the cricket team after the fatal experience, Sangakkara attempts to direct it at the situation which his compatriots had undergone at that time. What Kumar feels straight away after the fatals is awe and respect for the grit of his fellow Sri Lankans. It shows that Kumar Sangakkara considers Sri Lankans as his family. Moreover, he portrays the valiance that runs in the very veins of the Sri Lankans through raising his voice, summoning "We are Sri Lankans" in front of the audiences at Lords. Sangakkara elevates Sri Lanka into the highest possible position above every other nation in facing their brutality very bravely, since in his point of view, she is a divine. Patriotism is futile if it either dissolves or seek revenge when encountering crisis. The Sri Lankan cricket team never accused anyone of this attack and ensured peace and harmony between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Furthermore, it is apparent that he has dedicated all his skills, and talents for his country to promote the name and fame of it. It is obvious that while describing his horrible scene, the speaker, doesn't find any faults with the militants at all. Instead, he stresses the idea that the people in his country too also had to endure the brutality of terrorism for nearly 3 decades. He has no intention to promote his achievements in the field of cricket in this lecture, but very modestly conveys his tribute to the people of Sri Lanka. His regards, love, homage, and what else, kindness towards the wars and people were expressed through his patriotic sentiments. It is conventionally admitted that Kumar Sangakkara is not just a good cricketer, but also a better patriot, through this extract titled The Lahore Attack. Although the Sri Lankan cricketers were physically hardly injured, they held mentally very strong so that they were able to lift the name and fame of our country. In this lecture, Kumar Sangakkara has arranged the format in such a way to lend a message of Sri Lankanness while describing the horrible experience. Thus, I do think that Kumar Sangakkara proves himself as he is a real patriot than a mere cricketer. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well done, Reefa. That's right. So even though the audio is not that much clear, but actually she presented, so when as far as I got to know the meaning. So got to know what she means is, right, the perfectly analyze, how the Kumar Sangakkara brings, and he's known and he's introduced himself as a patriot, right, as a patriot rather than merely a cricket player, right? So that's what at the beginning also I told you all, but that is nicely explained by Reefa. Okay, rather than wasting my time, straight away, I just move to the other very important genre, right? As far as the exam, the final O-level exam is concerned, right? So we are getting the 1/4 of the marks. That means 25% of the whole marks is given for the fiction, the novel, right? The novel. So therefore, even the novel, even for the first part, also the 10 marks in the context question, right? The B part context question, even second part for the essay, the 15. So altogether 25 questions that we can get from there. So that's the reason why. So we have to get a clear understanding of the fiction, of the novel, right? So which are given as choice, right? Choice to the children, but most of the children, so they would prefer, right? They would prefer to choose the Vendor of Sweets, right? Written by R.K. Narayan, right? Probably the setup, the social setup, and also the setting of the entire novel based on India, which is almost connected to us, as far as the traditional concern, or the social concern, or the economical concern, and also the landscape, right? Which is very close to us, and also the traditional values and norms of ours are almost similar to theirs, India, right? So that may be the reason why most of the children choose the Vendor of Seeds for the choice of novel, right? So it's the question for Winsha, right? Winsha, it's a question for you. It's about the protagonist Jagan, right? Actually, he's the protagonist of the entire play, entire novel, right? From the beginning towards the end, he is traveling with us, traveling with the leaders, right? Readers. That's what my question is. Jagan misconceived affection, right? His misconceived affection as a father, misconceived affection could make Mali turn out to be what he ultimately became, right? Ultimately, he became a mischievous youngster, isn't it? Mischievous youngster with lots of negative qualities, right? Even as a father, he couldn't control him. He couldn't control him, or he couldn't advise him as a father, right? Even he was not able to play the role of a father as he is completely away from him. What's your opinion on it?
Yes, first of all, thanks for that question, sir. So before I move on to the question, let me break this down for anyone who is not much familiar with Vendor of Sweets. Vendor of Sweets is written by the reputed Indian writer R.K. Narayan, and Jagan and Mali are the two main central characters of this novel. So we see that these two characters undergo constant changes throughout the plot development from the beginning to the end. And that is when we are able to have a good analysis, a meticulous analysis about both of these characters. And we see that Jagan is playing a prominent role as a father, and that is where this question of his misconceived affection comes into play. So we see that these two characters are involved in the father-child relationship, which is prominent throughout the novel. And in my opinion, I consider the basis of maturity when coming to express opinions on such questions, because I believe maturity plays a prominent role in a relationship. So to see, parents play an important role considering that aspect in a relationship, which is why we need to have a good idea about the contribution of parents to their relationship with their children. So we see, according to me, I think there are two main categories of roles that a parent plays in their relationship with their child, which I call the nurture role and the structure role. So nurture role is all about fulfilling the emotional longings as well as the basic needs of the child, whether it be food, clothing, or even love, care, attention, and even time. This nurture role can be fulfilled by an elder, someone who is concerned about the child. Even a guardian would be able to perfectly fulfill this role. But the structure role is the prominent role. This is a role that plays a full-fledged role in structuring the child to who he or she becomes at the end of the day, which I'll be reaching at the end of this opinion I'll be discussing. So this structure role is all about bringing up the moral values that are necessary for a child, bringing up the good values, being empathetic, disciplined, and also it's all about the father who brings up this right bonding, that dignified relationship with the child. So this relationship is a very pure one. But Jagan falls into that trap where he's unable, he's forced to play the dual roles of both a mother and a father. That is when he fails and misconceives the idea of affection. That is when he fails and misinterprets what it means to be a parent. He thinks that being a parent is all about playing the nurture role only. He always thinks about the height, weight, and the growth, which are just the physical attributes. But he's not concerned about the structural role, which is why I think that, just as Sir mentioned, he has failed and he has misconceived the affection that needs to be given by a father to a child, which is why we see that Mali ultimately becomes a character that we all would not like to associate with. He becomes that mischievous youngster that who will not make a positive or a favorable impact to the society. And all these breaking norms and being beyond and coming around with negative aspects throughout the novel, we see that all these characteristics which are acquired gradually by Mali is a direct influence or a direct impact of Jagan's misconceived affection, which sums up to the idea that when viewing this in a subjective viewpoint, I firmly believe that Mali's ultimate result of who he becomes is a direct impact or a direct consequence of Jagan's misconceived affection.
Lovely presented. It's really understandable. It's very clearly explained by Winsha, right? How the blame, right? The blame as far as in other words, the blame should go to Jagan, because actually as a father he cannot be blamed, right? He cannot be blamed, so he tries to play the role of a father. He tries to be a father, but for some reasons that cannot be accepted by his son, right? That's what the reason for the main conflicts between them, right? Since, as Winsha mentioned, he has to play the dual role as a father and mother, right? He's a motherless child and keeping the child throughout his, even that's a great thing, almost 20 years, 10 years that he has brought up, right? He has brought up his son with a single-handed parent, right? A single parent. So that's a great thing, right? But that affection, the misconceived affection, that was the responsible, that was the reason for his the outrageous activities and going away from him as a mischievous, as a stubborn child, right? Ultimately, that he suffered a lot at the end. Okay, thank you, Winsha. Don't go away. Again, I come back to you, right? One more question, right? Since you're by looking at your elaborated the explanation of the question, I just wanted to ask you one more question from the same fiction, right? From the same novel, right? Since I said at the beginning, I told you, so we had to spend more time on that, so because it carries more marks. Definitely the children, so they would get lots of benefits, right, by listening to your explanation, right? So by watching this in the video, right? So even in the first question also, we were talking about the character Jagan, right? Since still, so he is the protagonist, right? Everything, every plot sequences are based on him only as the protagonist here, right? As a father. So my second question is also based on that only, right? What could be the best description of Jagan? How can we describe it? I have given you the option, so you just so go with one. Choose one description, better description. Otherwise, you can choose any other on your own, right? That's up to you. So you are given the liberty. An ardent Hindu Orthodox traditional man, the first choice. A follower of Gandhian principles, second choice. A pitiful father who pathetically urges for affection. That is the third point. The fourth one, caring, and affection and caring. The fourth point, he is a hypocrite. What's your opinion? How would you see him?
Well, that's a very tricky question, but maybe I could give my utmost best opinion on this. So Jagan, as I said before, he is the central character of this novel. So R.K. Narayan places Jagan into as many molds as possible. We see Jagan as an orthodox traditional man, and then in another chapter we see him as a fully principled Gandhian follower, and then in another case we see him as a pitiful father who urges for his son's love and affection. And finally, we see him throughout the plot as a hypocrite. So my opinion is that the term hypocrite would suit him most because we see that hypocritical nature throughout all his characteristics. That is a common characteristic we see in Jagan from the beginning to the end, regardless of the changes that he undergoes throughout the plot, the losses that he is posed with, or even the unfortunate situations that he is being provided. He is always playing the role of a hypocrite. I think it's a humanly nature to contradict one's ideas than what he or she professes, because that is the fallible nature of man. But to be honest, Jagan is more towards the hypocritical nature, because even when we consider these three main factors of social, religious, as well as personal life, we see that concerning the religious life, we are introduced to Jagan as someone who reads the Bhagavad Gita unflinchingly. But at this right second, he hears a pause in the sizzling, he just stops it, which proves that he's hypocritical. He's not sincere in what he reads. He's not actually absorbed to the Bhagavad Gita as he is pretentious. And then we see him in another situation as a strict Gandhian follower. We see him as someone who is very ardent, who wants to follow and be the best Gandhian follower, as I would say. So, but we see that at one point, he tries to create that facade. He tries to justify his wrongdoings. For example, I would say when he tries to escape from the business taxes that he's actually due, he justifies it by saying that Gandhi never spoke anything against taxes. So that is a place where he speaks about that R.K. Narayan portrays his hypocritical nature again. And then coming on to his personal life, we see throughout that he is a pitiful father. Even as students, we at a point feel really sorry for Jagan for what he goes through as a single-handed parent who brings up his child single-handedly and also is subject to a lot of challenges and obstacles as a father. But we see him as a pitiful father. Yes, I do agree. But at one point, or even at several points, we see that he's having that little bit sense of hypocritical nature. He doesn't fulfill what he actually professes. He says that his money is all for his son, but he still has that bit of stingy nature. He's thrifty. And we see that even though he's a pitiful father, we see that he's having that little bit of hypocritical nature. So throughout the characteristics that we are being brought out, we are being presented, we find that hypocrisy is a common characteristic trait that we find from the Jagan who is very young as a young father to the Jagan who is going to find a new enlightenment in life. We see that hypocritical nature throughout, which is why I firmly believe that hypocritical nature, his hypocrite is the right label for him, because as someone who has really gone through and analyzed the novel, I really believe that hypocrite is the right one, because we see him as a white sepulcher before anyone else could come and contradict that, because we see Jagan is someone who contradicts what he prophesies. So I think hypocrite is the right one for him, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's a lovely justifications, right? That done by Winsha, right? Finally, even actually, so he's a hypocrite, there is no question about it, right? Even at the beginning, he's introduced as a different person, right? But at the end, even the one point that I should mention at the last, when he goes for enlightenment, right? Enlightenment, the spiritual life. So he takes his checkbook with him. That's the question. That is the best point that can be justified, for his hypocritic nature. Thank you, Winsha. Okay, right. So since we are running out of time, so we have to rush it out. Right. Okay. My second one, right? The second chance. I'm asking a question to Reefa, right? Reefa. Again, I'll come back to you. It's about the same, the prose text, right? The same, the speech, the oration, right? Done by Kumar Sangakkara, right? My question is, Amma, how would you justify that cricket is a passion in Sri Lanka? How would you justify that cricket is a passion in Sri Lanka?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah. First of all, before starting to answer my question, I would like to start with the statement which was uttered by Soldier Kumar Sangakkara. It is okay if I die because it is my job and I am ready for it. But you are a hero, and if you were to die, it would be a great loss for our country. There's no doubt that Kumar Sangakkara should have included the statement of the soldier to wind up his lecture to display the hearts of Sri Lankans. The soldier is ready to sacrifice his life for the country and the people because he is admitted for that purpose. But he recounts that our cricketers should not be unfortunate victims of the bloody thirsty barbarians because they, the cricketers, are a precious national asset for our country. Sangakkara mentions this incident with the soldier point in order to illustrate the patriotism and high regard for cricketers that burns in every Sri Lankan heart. This man values Sangakkara's life more than his own even. Also, in the eventual plot of the speech, Kumar Sangakkara understands that cricket and cricketers are an integral part of the general public, and the love and regard shown by them should be reciprocated. Thus, after glancing at the love showered by the fellow Sri Lankans, he says he felt humbled. This shows the love we Sri Lankans have kept upon cricket and cricketers. Thus, we can say that cricket is an immensely appreciated passion in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Yes, so beautifully justified, how the cricket has become a passion to Sri Lanka and the Sri Lankans. Lovely said, thank you, Reefa. Okay, let's so move to Lashvikah again, right, Lashvi? My question is from the same genre only, the same text only, about the wave, right? The question is, how do you see the guilty consciousness of Sonali for not calling her parents? How do you see that?
Yes, sir. As I said before, it's all about a woman's emotion. This whole thing happened because of the scene at the hotel and how the Sonali's mind filled with the fear and confusion and doesn't know what to do. It's natural. Sonali is utterly helpless. And she thought as a parent, not as a daughter. That's why she couldn't call her parents earlier. But also she worried a lot and felt guilty because she doesn't know what to do. And I don't criticize her because as a mother, the thing she had done was correct.
Okay, lovely, right? She prioritized her motherhood, right? So motherhood. So because of the motherhood only, we're prioritizing the motherhood only. She did this. She did that, as she already explained. That is not an intentional reaction. That's a spontaneous reaction. So therefore, no point in feeling the guilty, right? Feeling guilty for not calling the parents at all. Lovely. Well done, Lashvi. Thank you. Right. So next, I just let me move to Jaganya. Jaganya, so again, I am coming back to you with the same genre, right? The poetry, and especially about the nature poems, right? Nature poems. So my question is, nature has to be considered as the provider, and the destructor, right? As a provider and the destructor. Nature is considered as provider and destructor. So what's your point of view in this? As a provider and a destructor? Yeah.
Yes, thank you again. As I told before, nature is the thing which is basic of everything. But we want to keep in mind, but nature is unpredictable, just like our future. No one can stand against the statement, which is nature is a provider. The poems are proving that. The specific statement which I mentioned earlier To the Nile by John Keats, it's nursing the sword nations, which means the black people. Nile River is helping in farming, transport, and also, of course, in construction works. Also, it is the main thing which gives life for all water living creatures there. Not only in this poem, even in The Bird Came Down by the Walk by Emily Dickinson, the special lines. He bit an angleworm in halves and then he drank a dew from a convenient grass. If we specially concern our attention in these particular lines, we can say that the nature provides the basic thing which needs to fulfill the basic needs of every living creatures, each and every creature, as humans or birds or trees, every single thing. But apart from these, if we specially and deeply get into the lines which are considered under the nature-themed poems, the poems are indirectly telling that every nature has the destructing nature also. For example, in Bird Came Down the Walk, the narrator, a human, which is a nature, is without knowing her or his knowledge, making the bird frightened and get away from the place, which is directly or indirectly destroying the beauty of nature. Not only that, also I would like to get into the poem To the Evening Star by William Blake. In that, the wolf rages wild and the lion glides through the dun forest. Just these lines are enough to prove my statement of nature is correct. Not only the silent side of nature, but also the cruel side of nature is brought out in this poem specifically by the author. So I think so these things are enough to prove that nature is considered as provider as well as the destructor. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's enough. Well done. Yeah, the poem by William Blake, right? Even actually, as he's known as the poet of symbolism, isn't it? As the poet of symbolism, William Blake is known. So he uses even that particular poem, that To the Evening Star, is very much enough, right, to prove and justify this statement as a provider and also destroyer, right? The provider and also destroyer. Well done, nicely said, nicely presented, Jaganya. Thank you. So let's move the next part, right? The next person, Kaif, right? Kaif, so for years also with the same genre, I have chosen a question, right, of bear. So how do the protagonists in the play, the bear, impressive or impressed you? How do you see that?
Yes. The bear consists of three main major characters named Popova, Smirno, and Luca. And Popova is considered as the
check your audio, Dave. Excuse me, check your audio. It's not clear.
Is it okay now?
Yeah. Is it all right now? Can you speak now? Yeah, can you speak now? Yeah, that's nice. Okay, carry on.
Okay, now?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah, sir. First of all, the bear consists of three main major characters named Popova, Smirno, and Luca. Popova is considered as the protagonist of this story, and Anton Chekhov, the author of this plot, talked very much about women through her character. At the starting phases of the play, protagonist Popova and Smirnov was fighting like a cat and mouse, and after that, suddenly Smirnov fell for Popova because of her impressive or attractive characteristics. Anton Chekhov has presented Popova as a very pleasant character with many good attributes. When the play opens, Popova is portrayed as a beautiful and a young widow, and also she is portrayed as a loyal and emotional or a romantic character, because she is very much loyal because she was in mourning for her late husband for more than 7 months of time. We can see how much loyal she was from that thing. Popova reveals how her late husband was not faithful to her and betraying her, but even though she knows everything, she loved him so much. This thing creates a little sympathy on the audience mind towards Popova. Popova is a mentally strong person also, because even after she lost her husband who she loved so much, she never wanted a new life partner to continue her rest of the life. When we talk about Popova's characteristics, we should concern about her boldness also. Popova is a very bold person in nature. Even though she was a female, she is bold enough to accept the challenge given by Smirno to fight a gun duel with him. And it is really impressive to see a woman like Popova fighting with a rude guy Smirno. Even though Popova didn't know how to handle pistols, she was ready to learn it from Smirno and fight against the same person, which is really impressive. Popova is a very good-hearted person also, because in a society like feudal system where servants are treated like slaves, Popova gave some space to Luca, her servant, to speak freely with her. We can see this instance on the starting scenes of the play. Popova also has some minor negative qualities, such as she is inconsistent and using some abusive words to Spirno, like calling him as a bear, boo. But her positive attributes overshadow those and present her as a good character with attractive and impressive and interesting characteristics in a waltz song. That's it.
Yeah, it's very clear and very attractively, he presented, right? Introduced those two characters and their qualities, the different qualities. Well done, Kaif. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's come to my last question to Fedrina, right? Fedrina, this question is also as I did in the first question that I gave you, chosen from the conflicts poems, right? The conflict poems. My question is, how does the human reaction based on someone's negative emotions and would affect the entire community than his personal life? Again, I repeat my question. How does a human reaction based on someone's negative emotions would affect the entire community than his personal life?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As we all know, this whole world is made up of billions and billions of people, and all of their tiny actions have consequences and matter in the grand scheme of things. And unfortunately, the people with power to kill are most powerful, unfortunately, in today's world. And this is made clearer in the poem called The Terrorist is Watching by Wisława Szymborska, because the single mindless action of this one terrorist has the ability to affect everyone in the path, including their friends, their family, and the entire community as a whole. We never know how many parents lost their children, how many children lost their parents, how many friends lost each other, or how many people survived and regretted it for the rest of their lives. Because sometimes surviving through something as traumatic as that is worse than just dying then and there. And the pain and suffering caused by this one person is immeasurable and irreversible, and we are not going to get all those lives back, no matter how much we reprimand him. And this is clearly shown through that poem. And as mentioned above, another thing that has the power to kill thousands and thousands of people is war. And first of all, it depends on every soldier that fights in it. And though it depends on the soldiers, the poem The War is Kind, written by Stephen Crane, is addressed to their family members, and it makes us wonder why. A maiden here is consoled by the words, "War is kind," a sentence which is ironical in on itself. And while the fighting men are described as ruthless and born to fight and die, the family is said not to weep. And this shows how much war can affect entire countries and communities, starting from every single member of the soldier's family. The negative emotions between the world leaders lead to war, and which in turn leads to slaughter of societies and people, further proving the point that I mentioned earlier. And this is how I think that someone's negative emotions can affect entire communities. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so lovely presentation, right? Overall, the negative emotions, right? Actually, it would not affect an individual, right? So for the person, he himself or herself, but that would affect to the entire community, right? So that's what presented in the poems. Very nicely explained, Fedrina. Okay, thank you so much, children. Actually, we have come to the end of this panel discussion. And it has become an asset as a useful resource than I expected. It's really nicely have come and you shared and you showed your talents and all your knowledge, right? So moreover, furthermore, actually, I should say something, not sharing or not showing your talents, but you are sharing your talents with the other children. So those who haven't got the chances of getting to know, right? So that's where I can see your generosity, right? And also obliging my request and coming and coming and taking part in this the useful and wonderful panel discussion. So I would like to extend my sincere gratitude for you all, for your time and canceling your classes and spending time here. Definitely it is definitely, so you are going to be blessed, right? So God bless you, children. Thank you so much. I'll meet you in another session like this. Bye for today. Good night.